Hey guys, so we're back to working on Built Different. And in the previous video we had measured liner protrusion, pulled the head, and found that we had a problem with the head gasket. Also we found that this number 5 cylinder here, as you can see, is not looking too good. So customers said, you know what, since it's only got 100 hours on this rebuild, let's do the one liner, let's do the ring set, and reuse the rod. Obviously new head gasket. He got a cat head gasket this time, which I don't fault him there, going with the factory one. And he's going to turn the horsepower back down to stock also. Probably not the worst idea, since he may have a driver in this truck. Again, not the same driver, but hopefully one that takes, we'll just say, a little more care of it. So first thing to do, though, since we already had the pan off, is we're going to be pushing this piston out. Now, we need to inspect the piston and the rod just to make sure, although we don't suspect any damage to them. Considering they're not that old, well, the rod is. I think the rods are actually original to the engine, but the pistons themselves have been replaced, and obviously the rings and liners when it got rebuilt. So what we're really just doing is popping it out, inspecting it, and hopefully all it needs is rings in the liner itself and rod bearings. Not much carbon buildup, a little bit on there. We're not going to be using the rings or the liner, so not too concerned about them. Going to set the piston up here, set it there, and then come grab it. And we'll take a good look at it here, but it looks to be the piston is in good condition. Now, of course, we didn't know the condition of the piston. The customer is hoping, obviously, though, to spend as least as parts as possible, as it doesn't have that many hours on it. With the piston out, we are going to be pulling our friend the liner. Now, I'd already pulled the cooling jet before I pulled the piston, but we're going to be pulling this liner. Now, some people might say, well, don't you want to replace all the liners or all the piston rings at this point? I would have to go with the customer on this one and say no, in my opinion, just because they've only got 100 hours on them. Now, it obviously was running hot, but with that low hours and not seeing any damage in any of the other cylinders, I think you'd be fine with just replacing the ones that you see are damaged here. We're using our OTC puller here. You know, I always used to, when I worked at the shop, I'd use an air impact to zip these out, but always doing them by hand now. With it's just safer that way, folks, and easier on the tool, obviously. Obviously, also want to lubricate the threads on the puller. So we got a liner out, got our rod, still the Cat original rod, wrist pin clips, just check those. Bearing doesn't look, I mean, it only has 100 hours on it, but little scuffing. Nothing horrible. It is showing a little bit of copper there. But who knows, folks. That could have been during removal. Now look at the rings. The gaps they're not very far off. They're probably 15 degrees off. They always rotate when running, folks. So liner has some rust on it already, which is kind of weird. Now previously, this is an IPD liner. In the previous video, we were using IPD liners, and it had the flat band style seals on it. This one has round O-ring style seals, so not sure why they run different styles. So you can see the damage there. Something got in there. It stops right where the piston rings end on the bottom there. So yeah, with that out, we are going to clean up the deck here. And there's really not much to do. It doesn't have counterbores cut. It had machined inserts installed, so we don't have to worry about counterbores. We already know the liner protrusion was fine. So yeah, really just going to be putting the new liner in, putting new rings on, and then installing that. So we're going to be using our tire soap or rubber lubricant to install the seals here. Never want to put the seals in dry. And I lubricate the bore in the block, as you can see here. Then I also lubricate the O-rings themselves, because it would really suck to put them in dry and damage the O-rings when installing them. So you want to give them the best chance they can. And then there's actually a filler band on top that I install right before pressing the liner in. And I'm actually using a new style liner press, which we'll actually see here in about a minute. I've been using for the last few years the Monaco style press type that's a drill style, more of like a reverse puller to push it in, but I recently got a bar style one, which is the original style, and you'll see it. We're gonna have a little destruction of the week first, but first, before we do that, we need to put our filler band on here, which this is a filler band. It looks like a big rubber band soaked in oil. Make sure it's not rolled or anything. Sucker's ready to go. I am always very thorough to make sure it's not rolled. It'd be hard to do it, but I don't know. Don't want to mess it up at this point. So let's get that puppy ready to get installed. Before we do that, how about a little destruction of the week? This week's destruction of the week, or the first one, is from Ephraim, and he said, banana broken. And this is looks like a log processor, and something looks a little off here. Something's going on weird here. Oh, yeah, that's pretty broken. He said there was about a $30,000 repair. You can see the chains and stuff, so yeah, that's not a cheap fix there, folks. Thanks for sending the pictures there. We also have one from John, which kind of explains itself. Yeah, those aren't two-piece injectors there. It also damaged the camshaft, and he was saying he thought the cam damaged the injector, or, well, he thought the injector damaged the cam. I said probably the other way around, the cam damaged the injector, but yeah, who knows. So this is the bar-style one I used on this one. The first time using it is on this liner. Was there anything wrong with the Monaco style or the reverse polar type with the drill that I've been using? No. They're less expensive. They're about half the price. They're more tedious, though. You have to install the bolts. Then you have to have a tool to press them. This, you really just finger tighten in the head bolt, and then set the bar, and then press it in. It's a lot faster, less tooling to do the job itself, other than the bar itself. So now this is a new tool I just got. It's a Apex, although I got it through Monaco Tools. And I've been using we'll just say overseas one for a while. And I've never been super happy with it. A subscriber sent it to me. I'm very thankful for that, but not this one. A subscriber sent me the Chinese one I was using, but it was never really round. When I would put pistons in, it would catch, especially when it was new. So I ended up having to sand the heck out of it, and I was never really happy with the performance of it, so I actually got this one here. Legit, made in the USA one. It's about twice as heavy as that overseas one I had, and I noticed it seems to fit much better on here. And you'll see here in a second what I mean. So it's just a piston ring compressor, folks. They're quite expensive. And one thing I was doing installing these, I put the arms at 90 degrees from the block, so you kind of know where the rods are. Watch how we do this. Push this in. Super easy. My other one would not do that. It was always a pain. So getting under here, new rod bearing. So I torqued this already. As you can see, it's torque striped. And I always check, you get a little bit of movement, a few thousandths, just enough to see. But I noticed something. None of the other rods or mains, even though I only did one rod here, and you can see I left the ladder plate and oil pump on, are marked with anything. They don't have any torque striping, nothing on them. Now, folks, I don't know who built this engine before. I'm not saying they did a bad job or anything. I mean, they could have 5 times as much engine experience as me, and their engines might last a lot longer than engines I build. I just find it unusual, I guess, to find rod bolts and main bolts with no torque striping on. Now, obviously, you can torque something and not torque stripe it at all. I'm not saying that they did it wrong. I have no way of really testing that. It's just, when I do it, it better be torque striped. That way I know it was done, and especially on a torque turn. Now, we're doing a liner protrusion again here, which seems like you do this in every video, but since it's got a new liner, we just want to make sure that it is reading right. And all the other ones, we're measuring around 5 thousandths, so hopefully, look at that. 5 thousandths exactly. Awesome. So that one matches all the other ones. So there, we're good to go. Our friend the head studs. So these are not Cat, obviously. Cat doesn't use studs. They use bolts for head bolts. And I was looking this up, and I thought these were ARP. At least that's what I had been told. And I looked up on ARP the torque procedure, and it torqued to, I believe, 450 foot-pounds for the nuts, not the studs. The studs you just run in finger tight, basically, which is, I'm using this really little nut driver here that's, about finger tight. But that made me nervous. 450 foot-pounds, folks. Cat head bolts torque to 330, so you're almost 50% higher, not exactly, but maybe 40% higher on the torque there, made me very nervous. So the customer actually found out that they are not ARP, even though I couldn't find any part numbers on them. It's actually IPD, which is the same as the rebuild kit. And according to the IPD kit, those torque to factory, so 330. And like I said, you're not torquing the stud. The stud, you just lubricate the threads and go in basically finger tight. You are actually torquing the nut, which is a 15/16 12 point, which I got to give good old credit to our friend, the Zaw, the good old online shopping thing there. I'd ordered a 12-point 15/16 3/4 drive socket. It ended up said it was 1 day late on delivery, which actually put it after the date I needed it, and then they said they just lost it, and they were kind enough to just say, oh, we just canceled your order. Thanks so much. Yeah, I didn't need the tool that I ordered, and that was pretty frustrating. But what we're doing here, folks, obviously we're just torquing the head bolts. Well, not bolts. They're studs. But yeah, if you're using the IPD ones, unless it has some other sort of literature, just said they torque to normal sequence, which is 200 foot-pounds, then 330, then 330 again. I actually did 330 3 times on this one just to make sure, but they actually moved less than the head bolts usually do. So just torquing these cam bolts. I don't think they had been torqued previously, which made me pretty nervous. But yeah, torquing them to 180 currently. Our cam backlash was a little bit on the tighter side. It was around 8 thousandths. Still within spec though, because you have 4 to 24 thousandths is the spec. Put her back together here, folks, and customer was pretty happy with this one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, getting built different back together. Thanks for watching.